Activism is draining, exhausting, and unrelenting. The change you may eventually achieve is often pale in comparison with your initial vision. It can be lonely and isolating at first, when you feel like you're the only one that cares, the only one willing to sacrifice your likability and palatability for the greater good, and sometimes even sacrificing a few friends along the way too. But simultaneously, it is the most fulfilling, energizing, and motivating experience there is. There is nothing more satisfying than contributing to change, no matter how directly or indirectly that contribution was. Not only is it both extrinsically and intrinsically rewarding, but gradually, activism allows you to build up a community of like-minded people and become a force for change, bouncing ideas off of each other and holding one another accountable. In addition, as a teenager growing up with an anxiety disorder, volunteering and campaigning pushed me out of my comfort zone, allowing me to build my confidence up to, well, this. Engaging with such emotive causes can be exhausting, and activism demands a lot of empathy. But if there is one thing I'd encourage each and every single one of you to do, is to seize your passion and channel it into a charity, a project, a campaign that encompasses your beliefs. Getting involved spans a lot further than performative armchair activism that enables us to feel virtuous at the click of a button, or allegedly educating ourselves through the social media echo chamber. Now, we have days, weeks, even months dedicated to raising awareness for the many important social issues, from celebrating Black History Month to educating people about HIV/AIDS. The calendar is crammed with these important dates, and rightly so. However, it comes to a point where awareness alone is not enough. Sharing empty infographics on Instagram and retweeting hashtags is meaningless when not hand in hand with direct action. Now, by no means am I claiming social media is the enemy here, as I myself have conducted many campaigns, with varying levels of success, of course, through social media. And what better way is there to reach thousands, if not millions, of like-minded people than through social media? After all, change happens through numbers. However, human rights are more than just a hashtag. Demanding justice is more than just a trend. But if the pandemic has taught us anything, it is that the power of the internet as a source of hope, a source of community, and a catalyst for change. But it is all too easy to satisfy that internal desire for validation, virtue signal, express our saviour complex through a simple retweet. So, what can you do? Activism is not like politics, or at least career politics. It's not such of an exclusive old boys network, don't worry. Anyone can be an activist, in fact. Activism is in the everyday. It's in standing up for that young woman getting sexually harassed on public transport while you're on the way to work. It's in holding your mates accountable for the offensive language they use at the pub. It's in standing up against those subtle microaggressions used against minority groups that society conditions us to accept. It's these so-called everyday things that are the foundation for injustice, that normalise oppression and desensitise us to the more extreme manifestations of prejudice. Most of the activists I know did not set out to be an activist. They didn't wake up one morning and decide that they wanted to change the world. Instead, they were kind of forced into it as a result of their own experiences with oppression and inequality. For me, I hesitate to proclaim myself an activist, as the credentials to fill such a monumental title feel way beyond me at times. Perhaps the term change maker is more apt and less intimidating. Regardless, making change is a gradual process, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed when you get involved in activism and swarmed by the abundance of equally deserving campaigns and end up burning out by giving too much of yourself to too many campaigns. There can also unfortunately be a toxic culture of perfectionism in which activists are expected to know and understand every nuance and complexity of an issue and avoid making mistakes at all costs. This, however, is simply unrealistic. It's fundamental human nature to make mistakes, and that's okay. as long as our intentions are wholesome and we are willing to learn from them. After all, the positive change you are capable of making far surpasses the difficulties you may face in the process. As a young person myself, I understand just how frustrating being disenfranchised is, and how disconnected I feel from electoral politics. However, being able to vote is only one facet of political engagement and influence. For example, the recent climate strikes and last year's Trust Our Teachers protests, both of which I've been heavily involved with, demonstrate just how powerful young people can be, without even having to tick a box on a ballot paper. Not even hours after last year's Trust Our Teachers protest, the government made a massive U-turn, allowing last year's GCSE and A-level students to receive teacher-predicted grades, rather than grades calculated on an unfair algorithm that perpetuated the postcode lottery that a lot of students already deal with in lower income areas. No singular activist can take sole credit for that achievement, as every single person's contribution is a drop in the bucket, gradually over time causing the bucket to overflow and change to be made. Even now I'm 18 and eligible to vote, I still feel distant from politics, and as if both political parties that are at the forefront of UK politics are two sides of the same coin sometimes, offering no real choice for the electorate. However, being able to vote is just a passive manifestation of your political engagement, and active engagement spans a lot further with more direct and fulfilling results. By no means does active engagement need to consist of megaphones and masses of people. It simply takes a passion and a medium to express that through. Some of the most inspiring activism I have seen has been expressed through art, whether that be music, theatre or poetry. After all, creativity is at the core of change making. Activism is for everyone. It is, in my opinion, the most effective display of empathy. It's quite simply a question of decisions. Deciding to take public transport to reduce emissions, deciding to boycott an unethical brand, deciding to use your privilege to educate others, deciding to be selfless. The crux of it is, there is no one way to be an activist. It comes in all shapes and forms. My few years of volunteering and youth work may seem distinctly different to your dedication to support small black-owned businesses, or your dedication to boycotting fast fashion. However, they are all equally valuable in the long run. You may feel like what you are doing is not enough. You may feel like your voice is being drowned out by the bellowing of politicians. You may feel like you'll never change one person's mind, let alone the world. But keep going. The small victories amount to big ones in the end. Thank you.